All right. Hi. It's nice to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about a world without nature, which is sort of, at first, when I was, tell people what I'm going to be talking about tonight, the first thing they kind of think of is something dark and maybe ominous. A world without nature, what would that be? Would it be some sort of apocalyptic, industrial, just abyss? But actually, it's something completely different. It's a world where nature is no longer considered over there, something precious and pristine that needs to be protected, something separate from us. The ecological thought must transcend the language of apocalypse. This gentleman, Timothy Morton, wrote a book called The Ecological Thought, which speaks a lot to, I think, what I've been working on with my collective, the New Urban Naturalists. And the idea is that we have to move beyond our idea of nature as other and come to accept the fact that nature is other, the nature preserve, stay out of there, don't pick that, but you can put your garbage on this piece of land, because everything is nature. Nature is here, nature is us. We are mixed and meshed. We're all part of this same sort of life energy. And nature is here. I mean, there's coyotes in Golden Gate Park. There's deer using the Golden Gate Bridge for evening commute. So, previously I had thought a lot about sort of my idea of nature was, no, I don't want to disturb it. But we've already done that. And I think now we need to live with it, and we need to realize where we are and how incredibly fortunate we are to be part of this mesh. And Henry David Thoreau wrote, think of our life in nature daily to be shown matter, to come into contact with rocks, trees, wind on our cheeks, the solid earth, the actual world, the common sense, contact. Who are we? Where are we? Ladies and gentlemen, we are floating in space. I mean, it just blows my mind every time I think about it. So to this end, I've developed this collective called the New Urban Naturalists, which is a very sort of amorphous group that grows and contracts depending on the needs of our projects. And it really started because I had lost my last dog. My last dog passed away. And I realized I really missed that nonverbal communication with another species. So one of our major tenets is to support the development of interspecies relationships as a means toward planetary, environmental, and societal stability, because animals can teach us so much. They've managed to survive, adapt, have, procreate without destroying the planet. So one of the first projects I did with the New Urban Naturalists was an instructional video on how to develop deeper interspecies relationships.
Practice taste. Imagine how the animal eats. Do they grasp food with their hands or graze? Do they chew fast or slow? Do they store food in their cheeks? 10. Imitating an animal grooming can help you blend in. Grooming is a popular activity in the animal kingdom. Like human animals, non-human animals like to be clean, but also groom for pleasure. Practice grooming yourself by touching your hair, arms, and face with your hands. When hiking with a companion, grooming each other can help you both blend into the environment. Grooming your companion also strengthens social bonds. Practice grooming your companion, touching their hair, arms, and face.
So this is often when I produce this, I've given it as a workshop, and the audience blends in. So part of another thing we do as the New Urban Naturalists is we dissolve any sort of border, we try to, between the audience and the performance, and it becomes more of a workshop. It's almost like, it is. It's performance art therapy. So this is another project I did. I rewrote the map for a regional park that included all these different steps you could take to develop deeper interspecies relationships when you're out on your hike. And I was trying to push this to the park district, and they were kind of like, eh. But it's interesting to note that actually I've heard recently that the Golden Gate recreation area is going to start to develop programming that is sort of a combination of art therapy, nature art therapy, eco-therapy, which is actually quite established therapy. So we lead hikes. We also have a website called PETS, Prescribed Engagement Therapy. It's an online pharmacy, and you can go online, fill out a very simple survey, and receive in return action-oriented prescriptions that might include making a nature sandwich, which would be some sort of animal and you laying on the grass. I mean that's got to be good. This is another hike that we led at the Headland Center for the Arts, which is currently the New Urban Naturalists HQ. And this was a really exciting hike because I developed I choreographed the hike. And from that hike, we actually developed another performance. These are some just, strangers that came along, and one of the instructions was to find a rock bigger than yourself and rest in it. We also made nonverbal sounds and talked about where the verbal language actually developed from animal sounds, because we came much later and we were actually quite quiet at first. So this is the performance at the Headlands, another workshop. So the audience is here, and we actually move in and out of the audience. And this is a little excerpt of this performance.
It's the carbon cycle. Carbon combines with rainwater to form carbonic acid. Rocks dissolve, and the runoff is carried out to the sea. Creatures like coral and clam extract carbon from the water to form exoskeletons and shells. Some creatures are eaten by bigger and bigger creatures, climbing higher and higher up the food chain. Other creatures die and their shells sink down to the seafloor, where they're compressed to form limestone. Eventually, the limestone undergoes subduction as it grows heavy and slides under the Earth's crust. When the limestone nears the Earth's core, it heats up, and carbon is released as volcanic gas, traveling up through the continental plate and back out into the atmosphere to begin the cycle again. Rocks are moving through us. Find a safe place where you can sit with a rock. Try to find a rock that is equal to or greater than your body in size. Climb onto the rock and find a place where you can comfortably rest your body. Once you can rest your head, relax your shoulders, your hands, your pelvis, your legs, your feet and your toes. Allow your body to sink into the rock. Now that you have replaced your body into the natural landscape, let your body rest. Relax your mind. Let your body recall its place in the universe. Close your eyes.
So another instructional video about the carbon cycle so that people can start to really understand their relationship to this rock that we call home that is currently hurtling through space. Along with this collective, I also make objects. I'm a recovering visual artist, so I still have this itch to make things every once in a while. And I'm making baskets because I feel that they allow me to contribute to this interspecies craft legacy. I'll just show a little bit of this. So that's actually a prop for this play that I'm developing, and it's meant for the water cycle. So there's going to be dancers working with those baskets. And what I'm working on right now as well is sort of a public art education project. And it's the first iteration of Homeschool by the New Urban Naturalists. And I'm working with a number of artists, including Alicia Escott, who makes these beautiful paintings on garbage bags. And she's one of my co-teachers. My frequent collaborator, Renee Rhodes, who is also a choreographer, and she's very much explores how the body navigates. Amber Hasselbring, who is a San Francisco artist who has been greening the streets of San Francisco for 2 decades and making the city more friendly to some of the native plants and insects. And also a choreographer and musician, Carl Cronin. Oh, what's this going on? Doesn't seem to be working very well. Who is developing a there he goes. Sorry, that was strange. He's developing a somatic archive, a natural history archive of 1,000 plants and animals. He says the plants are a little easier to record because they tend to stand in one place. But he's actually interested in working with our students, developing soundtracks, responding to our connection to the planet. Not only that, but our connection to other species, which is really what we're interested in developing. Let's see if I can get out of here. future. So I'll end with what I was up to at Jurassic, which really ended up being not what I expected. I went there thinking I was going to do write a choral piece about fracking. And when I arrived there, I started doing research. It was really the geography that started pulling to me and realizing that we can see million-year-old deposits as we go on our daily walks. And you can see how the land had twisted and bent around. And then I started realizing, that the length of time that this planet has been developing and changing and growing, and how long we've been here. So I developed a 20-minute performance piece that described geologic time, with the idea that understanding the geologic time scale, I think would give you a new perspective on your own time. And I was lucky enough to work inside of the barn, and working with the other artists who were there helped me come to some choices, and I decided to use this rock that belonged to another artist. She did this beautiful installation in here, and that rock was carried up along the geologic time scale so that the audience could visually, physically see time passing. And I don't start speaking about modern humans until, I'm a few inches from the end of the stage. We produced it also at the Headland Center for the Arts, and I changed it a little bit, talked about the Farallones, talked about the fact that the San Francisco Bay, only about 10,000 years ago, was a verdant valley, and that there were horse and camel and mastodon and this crazy thing called a flat-faced bear that was like 12 feet tall, running amok. And so what we did is I spent the first 14 minutes describing all the geologic events that happened, like the dinosaurs came, the dinosaurs disappeared, 30 million years. And then all of a sudden at the end, here we are. So we all popped up. Of course, we immediately started offing each other. And this is part of the soundtrack. You'll listen to this for 2 minutes.
Knowing the geological time scale from the Hadean eon to the present may work to alleviate some contemporary stresses. Consider your time in relation to Earth time. Imagine time free floating, drifting and folding, rising and falling. 4.4 billion years before now, in the Hadean eon, the Earth forms in a stellar cloud around a young sun. In the west, the oldest known rocks, remnants of the Earth's ancestral mantle, are between 2 and 3 billion years old and can be found in western Wyoming and in the deepest parts of the Grand Canyon. No rocks of this age are known in California.
Okay, just a little piece.